My name is Jen Brooks, and I'm a landscape architect. By the time I was in high school, my family had moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we lived in a town called Davidson, which is north of Charlotte. And it's a small town. It has a main street, and also just outside the town, it was mainly agricultural. And my high school was right down the street from the main strip. There was a luncheonette and an ice cream shop, the post office, the library, and I loved spending time on Main Street. There was an independence that it gave you, and there was a degree of authenticity, I guess I would call it, that felt really good to be a part of. I felt like I was a part of something. I studied urban design in college at New York University, and for someone who loved cities, I was so excited when I discovered you could actually study cities as a major. And for my thesis, my senior year of college, I studied the American garden cities, and specifically Sunnyside Gardens in Queens, which was designed by Clarence Stein and Henry Wright. After I graduated from NYU, I got a job in a landscape architect's office in New York City. It was the office of Michael Van Valkenburg Associates, and I was a studio assistant there, and it was a really influential 2 years of my life. Their office was growing at the time, and they were doing really exciting projects on the Hudson River waterfront, Union Square. They had just been awarded the commission for Brooklyn Bridge Park. And they really encouraged me to go on and study landscape architecture for my master's degree. And so I went to Harvard and did that. I really wouldn't have pursued that if it hadn't been for the people in the office. Frederick Law Olmsted is the father of American landscape architecture. He was the first person to take on the title of landscape architect as a professional title. And he's best known for designing Central Park, but he designed tons of public parks in North America, in the United States and in Canada. And he was a really interesting guy. He approached landscape architecture from a very diverse background. He didn't come to the profession until later in his career. He was first a seaman on a merchant ship. He ran a dry goods store. He actually had a farm on Staten Island, which he tried to succeed at for many years, and unfortunately didn't have a good time with it. But what he learned on the farm, he applied to his work at Central Park. He was also a journalist. During the Civil War, he traveled through the South. He was a correspondent. He wrote about race relations in the South. So all of these things allowed him to succeed in landscape architecture, because in addition to having knowledge about ecology and site design from farming, he also was a great communicator. And that led to his success, because he was able to convey to the public why the work that he was doing had value. If I were doing something else aside from landscape architecture, I think I might be working for the United Nations. When I was in high school, it was one of my ambitions to be a diplomat. I applied to the Foreign Service School at Georgetown, actually, when I was applying to colleges, and I didn't get in. And it's a funny twist of fate in that way, that I ended up at NYU and discovered urban design and then landscape architecture. The thing that's exciting about it for me, though, is that I think that I still could work at the UN someday as a landscape architect. I think it would be really exciting to work at the intersection of development and public health, disaster relief, addressing issues in the built environment around the world that have an impact on people's daily lives. The internet, that was a huge kind of technological advancement. And, I can remember really specifically when my family first got AOL. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. But it really stayed, as like a social, it was really just a social thing. I didn't use it much for research. And, coming from such a sheltered background, I wasn't like exploring chat rooms or, doing anything like that, being, adventurous. I just was emailing friends and whatnot. But now, I don't know what I would do without Google. I ask Google things every day. Google has also is a tremendous resource. Like I said, I don't know what I would do without it. We rely on it really heavily for image searches. And then Google Earth is the most amazing tool. You can visit anywhere in the world. When a new project comes into the office, before we're even going to the site, we're typing in the address on Google Earth and taking a look at it. Now with Street View, it's amazing. And the other cool thing about Google Earth is that you can pull back and just observe, ecological trends and patterns in the land. And it's just such a cool perspective to have, something that you really don't get from being on the ground. I think that because my generation is so connected, we have this impulse to collaborate with one another. And I think that makes us pretty unique, especially in design, where there's sort of this tradition of the starchitect. There's like one name in front of a design, even though a group of people worked on it. I don't think that you see that anymore. What I see among my peers and colleagues is this desire to collaborate. And this is also cross-disciplinary, respecting the specialties of each individual and then drawing from these different disciplines to strengthen a project.